In a buzzing coffee shop in downtown Seattle, Jake sat alone, stirring his drink absentmindedly. He wore a vintage leather jacket, the kind that told stories. It had scuffs and scratches, but it was his favorite. He felt it gave him a certain edge, a way to stand out in a crowd. But today, the jacket didn't feel like armor, it felt like a target. Across the room, a group of young professionals were laughing, their voices blending with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. One of the women with bright red lipstick and playful eyes caught Jake's gaze. Her laughter rolled like a wave through the air, and there was something magnetic about her. She called out playfully, her voice cutting through the bustling sounds around them. Jake's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know how to respond. He felt an urge to smile, but also a stab of embarrassment. It wasn't just the compliment, it was the way she said it. The tone felt light, teasing. "I think it's vintage." "Like super old," she continued, her playful smile widening. The teasing stung a little. He put his head down and sipped his coffee, trying to hide his flushed cheeks. It was true, the jacket had history, but here under her gaze it suddenly felt inadequate. He didn't want to be mocked, especially not in a place like this, where he'd hoped to find inspiration for his own fashion blog. The girl walked closer, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. She was confident, and the closer she got, the more Jake could see her perfectly styled hair and the way her eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm just messing with you," she said, softening her tone. "But honestly, I love it." Relief washed over him. He chuckled awkwardly, feeling a strange mix of admiration and protective instinct for his jacket. "Thanks, it's got character," he managed to say. Her name was Lily, and she quickly shifted the conversation away from the jacket. They talked about coffee preferences, favorite places in the city, and the music they loved. With every shared laugh, Jake felt the tension in his chest ease. The teasing now felt like a playful challenge that brought them closer. But just as Jake began to feel more at ease, a tall man entered the shop. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, and as he walked to the counter, there was a kind of gravitas around him. Every eye turned, and Jake felt a strange wave of admiration mixed with jealousy. He recognized him instantly. It was Marcus Delaney, the founder of a major fashion brand that Jake had admired for years. Jake's heart raced. Just a few weeks earlier, he had applied for an internship at Marcus's company, dreaming of working alongside the best in the industry. "That's Marcus Delaney," Jake whispered, nodding toward the counter, a hint of awe in his voice. Lily's eyes widened. "Wow, no way, he's a legend." Jake watched Marcus as he ordered his coffee, his composure flawless even amid the chaos. He looked like someone who could command a room with just his presence. Jake's knees felt weak. He had envisioned a moment like this, a chance encounter where he could introduce himself, impress Marcus with his passion for fashion, but now, standing in the coffee shop, he felt small. As if he sensed Jake's gaze, Marcus turned slightly, looking straight at him. Jake's heart thudded painfully against his ribs. All of his dreams and fears bubbled to the surface. Was this a moment meant for him? Would he have the courage to say something? But instead, he hesitated, feeling the weight of his jacket around him like a lead cloak. Was it enough? Would he just be another face in the crowd? Lily must have sensed his uncertainty. She urged enthusiastically, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "What's the worst that could happen?" Jake shook his head, breathing heavily. "I don't know," he confessed. Lily stepped closer. "You're more than that. You're passionate, Jake." The sincerity in her voice ignited something inside him. "Okay, maybe just a quick hello," he agreed. But as he made his way toward Marcus, his legs felt like lead and his heart raced harder. Just then, as he approached the counter, he heard laughter. Lily was talking to Marcus now, her carefree nature lighting the atmosphere. She joked, pointing back at Jake. Jake's stomach dropped. He wanted to disappear into the floor. Could this get any worse? Suddenly, he didn't just feel like a fanboy. He felt ridiculous. But then, surprisingly, Marcus laughed. "You'd be surprised how much character a good jacket can have," he said. Then his gaze shifted to Jake, and to his utter shock, Marcus smiled warmly at him. "Hey you, what do you think?" Jake's pulse quickened as he found himself frozen in place. It's a statement," he finally managed to say, his voice steadier than he expected. "I mean," the moment hung in the air like an electric charge. Jake could almost feel his own dreams colliding with reality. "You know," Marcus said, leaning a little closer, "a jacket is like a canvas." Jake's mind raced as Marcus continued to speak, "But it's also about how you wear it." He looked down at Jake's jacket. The compliment struck Jake deeply. The teasing from earlier no longer mattered. Here was Marcus Delaney, the founder of a company he admired, recognizing him. "Thanks," Jake replied, his voice richer with pride. "Then keep making those statements," Marcus encouraged, his tone genuine. "Fashion is all about expressing yourself, and your jacket is a part of that." Lily stood a few feet away, her eyes sparkling with excitement. It felt surreal to have this conversation. She was right, this was a moment he would cherish. "I actually applied for an internship at your company," Jake confessed, a thrill of bravery washing over him. "I would love to work in fashion." Marcus's interest peaked. "Oh really? That's fantastic." Jake took a deep breath, the words flowing more freely than he had anticipated. He described his ideas about innovative fashion that embodied stories of everyday people. Each piece of clothing given life through experience like his jacket. It was amazing how being in that moment made him feel alive. As he spoke, Jake could see Marcus nodding, genuinely engaged in the conversation. "You clearly have a passion for this," Marcus noted. "Make sure you keep that fiery spirit." In that instant, Jake realized he wasn't just a face in the crowd anymore. He was part of a larger narrative, one that he could shape. The teasing over his jacket had opened up a door he never thought he could walk through, leading to a chance to express himself. The moment stretched on, filled with excitement and possibilities. Then, just as quickly as it began, Marcus glanced at his watch, the buzz of his next appointment tugging at him. "It was a pleasure chatting with you both," he said, extending his hand to shake Jake's. Jake shook Marcus's hand, warmth flooding through him. "Thank you, I appreciate that," he said, his voice steady. As Marcus turned to leave, Jake found himself at a loss for words. He felt like he'd just been validated in a way he hadn't expected. The jacket he wore, once a source of insecurity, was now a badge of honor. He turned to Lily, who was grinning like she'd just witnessed a miracle unfold. She exclaimed, practically jumping in excitement. "I can't either," Jake said, still in shock but filled with newfound confidence. "You did it, and you were amazing. I told you, never underestimate the power of confidence." Jake nodded, a smile creeping onto his face. "You know, I think you were right. This jacket isn't just a piece of clothing to hide behind." From that day on, every time Jake wore that leather jacket, he remembered that moment of courage, connection, and self-expression. It was a reminder that stories matter. They define us and connect us to others in meaningful ways. Sometimes all it takes is a little teasing to spark a conversation that can change everything. He wasn't prepared for the moment it happened, a simple encounter that changed everything. It was a chilly afternoon in San Francisco, with a crisp wind ruffling the leaves on the trees lining the street. Jake stood outside a bustling coffee shop, nervously tugging at the collar of his vintage leather jacket, a piece that had seen its share of adventures but felt heavy on his shoulders today. Inside, the laughter and chatter created a warm atmosphere, drawing people in like moths to a flame. Jake watched through the glass as friends embraced, sharing stories and enjoying the little things in life. He'd hoped to join that, but today felt different. Doubt clung to him like the fog wrapping around the Golden Gate Bridge. Just then the door swung open, and as Jake took a breath, a gust of warm air swept against him. She entered, a burst of energy. Her hair flowed like silk, and she moved with a confidence that made heads turn. The laughter of the crowd seemed to lighten as she walked deeper inside. Jake couldn't help but stare, captivated. Then, like a lightning bolt, she glanced in his direction. She called out with a grin that could brighten the dullest day. Her tone was playful, teasing. Jake felt his cheeks flush. Was she serious? He opened his mouth to reply, but the words tangled in his throat. He had always thought of his jacket as a part of him, every scratch and scuff narrating a different chapter of his life. But now, under her gaze, self-doubt crept in. He muttered, but it came out more like a question than a statement. She flashed a pair of sparkling eyes, stepping a little closer. "Are you sure you didn't rescue that from a thrift store? It's got that." Was that mockery? Jake's heart sank. He glanced down at the jacket, suddenly feeling vulnerable in a way that caught him off guard. He had worn it for years, finding comfort in its weight and how it shaped his identity. But now it felt like a punchline. She laughed, her lightheartedness infectious. "I mean, it's pretty cool." A lump rose in his throat. Confusion tangled with a growing admiration. She was bold, unafraid to challenge him. "I appreciate it," he finally replied, mustering a smile to hide the unease that churned inside him. She leaned in closer, the soothing scent of her perfume enveloping him. "I'm Lily, by the way," she said, extending her hand. "Jake," he replied, shaking her hand, and in that connection something shifted. The teasing transformed into an exploration. They began chatting, shifting gears from fashion to their favorite coffee blends and quirky places in the city. But the warmth of the moment was interrupted when a tall figure entered the shop, drawing the attention of everyone around. He wore a sharp, tailored suit that spoke of success, and his presence felt magnetic. Jake's heart raced as recognition hit him like a tidal wave. It was Marcus Delaney, the founder of one of the biggest fashion brands in the country. Jake whispered to Lily, his voice barely above a breath. Her eyes widened with excitement, mirroring his. "No way, he's a legend." Jake felt a mixture of thrill and intimidation. The reason he was even in the coffee shop today was to soak in inspiration, and there stood the embodiment of it right in front of him. But how could he, a simple guy, approach someone so influential? With a racing heart, he felt the burdens of his hope and fear collide. Marcus walked up to the counter, exuding a quiet confidence that had people whispering and glancing in awe. "I'd love to design something for my next line right here in this coffee shop," he joked, and laughter rippled through the crowd. Jake's mind turned inward. Could he really approach him? Was it even possible? But just as those thoughts gnawed at him, Lily nudged him. "You should," she encouraged, her eyes gleaming with belief. "You never know what can happen." Her words flickered a light inside him. Maybe she was right. Perhaps this was his chance not just to meet Marcus, but to claim his own space in the world of fashion. Taking a deep breath, Jake stood up, his nerves sizzling in the air. He felt the heaviness of his jacket lift a little as he marched forward, each step gaining courage. But as he approached, he felt the ground wobble beneath him, the confidence waning. Then, before he could second-guess himself, the unexpected happened. Lily called out, "Hey Marcus, you have to see this jacket." Jake's breath hitched, his heart pounding. It felt like being thrown into the spotlight. All eyes turned to him, and suddenly time hung in the air. There he was, this guy with a leather jacket in a room full of polished people. Marcus said, flashing a smile, his voice smooth like silk. Jake felt the warmth of his words wash over him. "Thanks, it's a vintage." "I love how it tells a story," he stumbled out, but as he spoke, something unexpected happened. The jacket no longer felt like a burden, it felt like an armor. "Every piece of clothing has a story," Marcus continued, leaning in as if they were sharing secrets. "You could walk into a room and instantly your style could tell someone about your journey." Jake, emboldened by Marcus's words, found himself immersed in the conversation. It was as if the teasing had transformed the moment into an opening, a gateway to express himself. In that brief exchange, he poured out his passion for fashion, his dreams of storytelling through clothing, his vision for an innovative line that embraced authenticity. The two men stood there, sharing ideas, bantering back and forth. Lily observed, a proud smile on her face, reveling in the energy between them. Jake could hardly believe how natural the exchange felt. It was a conversation he had fantasized about, where his passion took center stage. Every doubt and moment of insecurity began to fade, replaced by a sense of belonging, a vital rush of confidence coursing through him. As Marcus leaned back intrigued, he tilted his head. "You've got something here, Jake." Those words echoed, reverberating in Jake's mind. "Thank you," was all he could manage, feeling what felt like years of self-doubt finally slip away. But just as Jake thought the moment couldn't get any better, Marcus glanced at his watch, realization dawning on him. "I've got to run, but let's keep in touch," he said. "Send me an email." Stunned, Jake nodded, barely comprehending the offer. "Yeah, definitely, I will," he replied, feeling his heart leap. Marcus flashed a final, encouraging smile before turning to Lily. "And keep inspiring him." With that, he was gone, slipping into the world outside, leaving behind a whirlwind of excitement and inspiration. Jake blinked, still in disbelief. That had just happened. Turning to Lily, he felt an unstoppable rush of gratitude. "I can't believe that just happened." Lily's eyes sparkled with joy. "I told you, you've got it in you." Jake chuckled, running a hand through his hair. "I definitely owe you one. Your teasing actually opened the door for me." As they settled back into their conversation, the atmosphere around them felt charged with possibilities. Jake no longer felt that heavy weight from earlier. The jacket, with all of its layers, had become a part of his journey, a reminder that he was shined through every interaction. He had faced his fears, burst through the veil of uncertainty, and had the ear of a legend. The laughter and teasing that had once stung now felt like the starting point of something incredible. Each conversation after that day became a stepping stone, carefully sculpting his path. Jake embraced his jacket as a badge of stories to come, ready for the next chapter in a world that suddenly felt wide open. Sometimes all it takes is a moment, a teasing comment, an unexpected encounter to transform your life. In that bustling coffee shop, amid laughter and dreams, Jake found not just confidence but connection, forging a future he once only imagined. "Nice jacket," her voice cut through the coffee shop chatter like a knife. Jake froze mid-sip, the steaming cup hovering just inches from his mouth. The playful smirk on her face made it clear she was teasing, but the sting of her words settled deep in his chest. Laughter erupted around them, blending with the rich aroma of coffee beans and freshly baked pastries. Jake could feel the heat rising in his cheeks, the warmth of embarrassment wrapping around him. He shifted uncomfortably in his vintage leather jacket, the same one he had loved for years, feeling suddenly exposed. It had history, character, and stories woven into every scuff and scratch, but at that moment it felt like a punch line. She was beautiful and confident, with electric blue eyes that sparkled with mischief. As she took a step closer, Jake couldn't decide whether to laugh along or to hide away in the corner. "I mean, it's got that old school vibe," she continued, her tone playful but her intent a shade sharper. "So, what's the story?" A surge of defensive bubbled up in Jake. He loved this jacket. It had been his armor through tough days and a statement piece that told the world he wasn't afraid to be different. "Actually, it's vintage." "You know, it was made in the 90s, he replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Her lips curled into a grin, and for a moment the teasing felt less like an attack and more like a friendly challenge. The compliment rolled off her tongue and unexpectedly began to shift the energy between them. She extended her hand. "Jake," he replied, shaking her hand tentatively, surprised by the spark that seemed to tingle at their connection. The laughter of the crowd faded slightly as he fell into the depths of her bright energy. Just as they began to share stories, a sudden hush enveloped the coffee shop. A tall man walked in, radiating authority and elegance, a tailored suit that fit him like a second skin and a demeanor that whispered confidence. Jake recognized him instantly. It was Marcus Delaney, the founder of one of the most successful fashion brands in the world. The air pulsed with recognition. A low murmur began, eyes turned, drinks paused. Jake's heart raced faster than ever. This was the man he often dreamed about meeting, the reason he dragged himself through fashion classes and endless late-night sketching sessions. This was the pivotal figure in the industry he aspired to break into. Lily whispered, her eyes sparkling. Jake stammered, suddenly feeling small again. The doubts came flooding back like a relentless tide, crashing over the newfound confidence he had just begun to feel. Absolutely. You're wearing that jacket like you own it, she urged, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that inspired more than just determination. The moment felt terrifying yet exhilarating. Suddenly, it didn't matter that the jacket had been mocked moments before. It represented his journey, his battles, each scuff a testament to the risks he'd taken in life. He could see it now. Behind all the playful teasing was a push, a challenge to stand taller. With a deep breath, Jake straightened up, his heart pounding against his ribcage as if urging him to act. He took one step toward Marcus, then another. It felt like a threshold, one that could either lead to triumph or failure. Lily watched him with encouraging eyes. He caught her smile, saw her unwavering belief in him. For a split second, he hesitated, glancing back at her, almost retreating. In that moment of pause, he remembered the jacket's history, how many times he had worn it while dreaming of the career he longed for. Today was a chance to make one of those dreams real. He approached Marcus, who was now leaning casually against the counter, ordering his drink. "Excuse me, Mr." Jake's voice trembled slightly but held a thread of determination. Marcus turned, eyebrows raised with curiosity. Jake felt the eyes of the entire coffee shop on him. Was he really doing this? "I just wanted to say that your work has really inspired me." Marcus looked at him, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "Thank you, Jake." Just then, a group of admirers crowded closer, vying for Marcus's attention. Jake could feel the momentum slipping away, but he didn't back down. He gestured to his leather jacket, feeling the weight of those words. Marcus's eyes flickered with interest. "You're wearing that jacket with pride, I see," he said. Jake took a breath, the moment transforming into a chance to share a piece of himself. "It traveled with me through college, through breakups, through moments of insecurity." Lily lit up, watching him speak with a newfound confidence. Jake could hear the truth in his own words now. This was his passion, his truth. As Marcus leaned in, something shifted in the atmosphere. "You see, that's what I love about fashion," Marcus said, his voice firm yet warm. "It's all about storytelling." Jake felt a wave of validation wash over him. This was the connection he had been searching for, an affirmation that his ideas mattered. The other admirers stepped back, sensing the energy growing between the two men. "I've been trying to get an internship with your company," Jake admitted, feeling a spark of courage. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Passion is essential in this industry. Always remember to stay true to your voice." Jake's jaw dropped. "Really? Of course. But every day I meet someone who wears their story as boldly as you do," he replied. The compliment sent a rush of warmth through Jake. "Thank you," Jake managed, the rush of excitement negating any lingering doubt. He thought back to the way Lily had teased him, pushing him outward, igniting a flame of confidence. Who would have thought that such a simple interaction could lead to a moment like this? Suddenly, Marcus glanced at his watch, the spell broken. "I have to run, but don't be a stranger, Jake." That he turned and walked away, melting back into the bustling coffee shop, leaving Jake bewildered. He stood in the spot, still absorbing what had just happened. He turned to Lily, speechless. She burst out laughing, clapping him on the back. "Yes, you talked to Marcus Delaney." Jake felt a wave of disbelief wash over him. "But it was my jacket," Lily exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. "You took a moment that felt awkward and turned it into something powerful." Jake's heart swelled. The very jacket that had felt like a target for ridicule had become a symbol of his journey, a badge of bravery that represented the beginning of something new. They settled into their conversation again, laughter spilling around them like confetti. Jake felt lighter, buoyed by the connection, the camaraderie, the understanding that sometimes it took a little teasing, a little push to uncover the true essence of who you are. In the days that followed, Jake followed up with Marcus's assistant, sending an email brimming with ideas and a strong sense of purpose. He embraced that sense of vulnerability, his stories, his passion, and yes, even his beloved jacket, each piece coming together like puzzle pieces finally falling into place. Weeks went by, and as he forged ahead, the anticipation kept building. He started sketching more, creating designs that brought forth the stories of everyday life, just as the jacket had represented his own. And then one morning an email appeared in his inbox. He could hardly contain his excitement. Just like the jacket, everything was coming full circle. A few teasing words, a moment of courage, and suddenly doors were opening. Before he knew it, he was sitting in the boardroom of Marcus's fashion house, surrounded by people who seemed so vastly different from him. But now Jake knew his worth. Today he wore his jacket not just as clothing, but as a representation of his journey, the triumphs, the struggles, and the hurdles he had jumped. After the interviews, as he walked out, he saw Marcus in the hallway. Marcus called out, recognition illuminating his face. "Good to see you again." "Exciting, sir," Jake said eagerly. "That's kind of surreal," Marcus replied, a knowing smile on his lips. "Remember what we discussed, your story is your strength." In that moment, Jake realized that every journey, every tease, and every moment of vulnerability were woven into something greater. It started with a casual comment, spiraled into a conversation, and had now blossomed into a legitimate path forward in his dream career. As Jake walked away, he patted the jacket, feeling an immense wave of gratitude wash over him. This was more than fabric and thread, it was a symbol of his ambitious heart, a piece of the incredible tapestry that was his life. Sometimes it takes a little teasing, an unexpected nudge, and a leap of faith to unveil the strength within. The jacket had not only become a part of his wardrobe, it had transformed into an emblem of resilience, adventure, and limitless possibilities. As he moved forward into the world of fashion, he knew the journey had only just begun. "Nice jacket," the words sliced through the noise of the bustling coffee shop like a sharp knife, and suddenly Jake felt every set of eyes in the room shift toward him. He paused, the warm cup of coffee almost spilling from his hands. The girl who had spoken was stunning, with her playful smile and bright eyes that seemed to dance with mischief. But the teasing tone of her voice made his heart drop. Jake glanced down at the vintage leather jacket he was wearing, his favorite piece of clothing. It had scuff marks that told stories, memories stitched into the very fabric of it, but in that moment it suddenly felt like an anchor pulling him down. She immediately added, a grin breaking through her earlier teasing. "I love it." Jake felt his cheeks warm as he forced out a chuckle, caught somewhere between embarrassment and intrigue. "Thanks," he replied, shifting awkwardly, unsure whether to defend his choice of attire or just roll with the banter. "Seriously though, I think it's awesome," she said, stepping closer. "Jake," he managed to reply, her energy contagious enough to make him feel a little lighter, but her teasing had struck a nerve. He had worn that jacket countless times, using it as a shield against the world. It had seen him through tough moments, breakups, challenges, and even the thrill of hope. Yet here he was, feeling exposed and vulnerable. As the two exchanged small talk, Jake found his gaze drifting around the room, soaking in the lively atmosphere. Laughter bounced off the walls, mingling with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. It was a familiar sight, yet today felt different, today felt charged. Suddenly the door swung open, and in walked a tall figure exuding a commanding presence. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was Marcus Delaney, the founder of one of the most prestigious fashion brands in the country. Just the sight of him made the energy in the room shift, transforming the light-hearted coffee shop into a mecca of inspiration and dreaming. "Oh wow," Jake whispered to Lily, his tone tinged with disbelief. "Yep, he's legendary," Lily replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Me, talk to him." Jake felt a rush of anxiety flood his system. His heart raced, and every doubt he'd ever held twisted its way back to the surface. After all, who was he, a guy in a slightly battered jacket, to approach a man whose name graced billboards across the country? But as he stood there, struggling with his thoughts, he caught a glimpse of Marcus interacting with his fans. The genuine warmth in his demeanor and the way he carried himself ignited something deep inside Jake. This was his chance, a glimpse into the world he so desperately wanted to be part of. Lily urged again, "You have nothing to lose." Her encouragement snapped something inside him. Maybe this playful interaction with Lily was the nudge he needed. Maybe it was about more than just a jacket or a chance encounter. So with his heart pounding and his stomach twisting in knots, Jake took a deep breath and straightened his shoulders. With each step toward Marcus, the weight of his jacket felt lighter, transformed from a weight of insecurity to a symbol of self-expression. The chatter and laughter faded as he focused on the moment ahead. Would he actually do this? Could he make that connection? "Excuse me, mister," he called out, his voice slightly wavering as he approached. Marcus turned, curiosity sparking in his eyes. "Hi, I'm Jake. I just wanted to say that your work in fashion has inspired me. It's the reason I'm pursuing this path," he said, his heart racing. As Marcus listened, Jake felt an unexpected wave of confidence wash over him. "I wear this jacket because it tells a story." The moment felt electric. For a second, it seemed like time stood still. He could see recognition flicker in Marcus's eyes, and something shifted between them, a connection forming in the space where boldness met passion. "Your story is important," Marcus replied, leaning closer, genuinely interested. "That jacket isn't just clothing, it's a part of your identity." Jake felt a surge of emotion. How could this legendary figure understand him so quickly? It was as if Marcus was peeling back layers, revealing truths Jake had only started to understand. "Thank you," he said, his voice steadier now. "I've been trying to get an internship at your company because I want to contribute to that conversation in fashion." "Send me the details about your work. I'd love to learn more," Marcus said. Jake's heart soared. This wasn't just a moment, it was an opportunity. "I will," he assured, feeling hope bubbling within him. At that moment, a group of enthusiastic fans migrated toward Marcus, and as the commotion surrounded him, the connection began to wane. Jake felt like he was on the edge of something magnificent, but the moment couldn't last forever. "I have to run," Marcus said, but as he glanced back, a genuine smile crept across his face. "Remember, stay true to yourself," he added before slipping out into the street. Jake stood there, practically breathless. Had that really just happened? The early embarrassment began to dissipate, replaced by a surge of pride and a sense of belonging he hadn't anticipated. He turned to Lily, who was beaming at him as if she had just witnessed a miracle. "Yes, you were amazing," she exclaimed, barely containing her excitement. He ran a hand through his hair, disbelieving the weight of what just took place. "I can't believe it." "Of course he did. You wore that jacket like a badge of honor. You didn't shy away, you owned it." For Jake, this moment shifted everything. What had once felt like a source of ridicule now stood as an emblem of strength, a narrative he could carry with him into the world of fashion. He briefly thought back to the teasing, but it no longer hurt. It had been a catalyst for growth, igniting a spark of enthusiasm that would lead him forward. As they continued their conversation, and electricity charged the air, Jake regaled Lily with plans for his designs, each piece inspired by real-life stories of struggle and triumph. The more they spoke, the more he realized how important it was to intertwine his identity within his creative endeavors. Weeks turned into a flurry of inspiration as Jake poured his heart into sketches and concepts. He reached out to the assistant Marcus had mentioned, sending emails filled with ideas that blended fashion with storytelling. Each day felt like a precious opportunity, an exhilarating dive into the world he had once dreamed of joining. Then came the email that changed everything, a warm yet professional invitation to interview for an internship at Marcus's fashion house. Jake could hardly breathe as he read the words. This was it. The day of the interview arrived, and he walked through the glass doors that seemed to shimmer with possibility. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with creativity, ambition, and determination. Each step forward felt like a leap into the unknown, yet Jake was ready. He wore that vintage jacket like a shield, no longer hiding behind it, but standing tall because of it. Walking into the conference room, Jake felt the weight of his journey transform into a sense of purpose. The panel of interviewers awaited him, and he took a moment to breathe. As he spoke passionately about his designs, the stories behind each piece, how they referenced real-life situations, their emotional weight, the panel engaged with him eagerly. It wasn't just about the clothes, it was the narrative that came with them. "Tell us about your connection to fashion," one panelist asked, leaning in with interest. Jake smiled, a flood of memories washing over him. "Fashion has always been a reflection of who we are, a voice for the unique stories we carry. It's powerful and it's personal." As he spoke, Jake could see nods of approval, glimmers of inspiration sparking in their eyes. The energy of the room shifted once again, and he felt at home. After what felt like hours of sharing, the panel concluded, and as he walked out, he couldn't help but feel victorious. He had stepped into the unknown and emerged with his ideas resonating. Days later came another email. This time, Jake's heart raced as he opened it, and tears pricked at his eyes. He had been chosen for the internship. His phone buzzer resonated with excitement as Lily called him. "You did it." Her voice was pure joy, and Jake felt it echo in his heart. "I can't believe it," he exclaimed, the thrill of success tinged with disbelief. "Of course it is. This is just the beginning," she encouraged. As he hung up, Jake felt gratitude swell within him. It all began with a simple a teasing comment that pushed him to lean into his insecurities and bite the bullet. Who would have thought that a jacket, once a source of embarrassment, would pave the way for his future? He looked down at it now, running his hand over its smooth leather. It had grown with him, molded into something more significant than the fabric itself. It stood as a reminder that every story matters, every struggle is worth sharing, and personal expression is the key to unlocking any door. And just like that, he stepped into a new chapter, ready to embrace challenges and share his vision with the world, wearing that jacket like the badge of honor it had become. The adventure ahead awaited, and Jake was finally ready to take it on. "Nice jacket." Jake felt the words like a sudden icy splash. He sat in a bustling coffee shop, feeling small in a room full of laughter and chatter. The girl across the room, her bright eyes gleaming with mischief, took a step closer, the drumming of her heels echoing against the wooden floor. She smirked, waiting for his reaction. The shock hit him harder than he expected. That jacket was vintage, a piece he had spent years cherishing. Each scuff and mark told a story, a small battle worn by time and adventure. But in that instant, it felt heavy and awkward, almost like a costume. He shifted in his seat, worries hacking at his bold exterior. She sang, her laughter ringing like music. "But seriously, it's epic. I can't believe you pulled off vintage." The warmth of her smile cut through the ice, and slowly he felt himself relax. It's from the 90s, he managed, feeling slightly more confident. Little did he know that this simple exchange would spark the beginning of an unforgettable journey. "I love the 90s, Rebels grunge," she said, enthusiasm lighting up her features. "Jake," he replied, finally allowing himself a smile. They began chatting, throwing playful banter back and forth against the din of the cafe. Each word flowed easier now, weaving them closer together. But just as the conversation felt like it could lift off, the world outside suddenly dimmed. The door swung open, and in walked a man who commanded immediate attention. Tall, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, he radiated confidence. This was no ordinary figure. It was Marcus Delaney, the founder of a renowned fashion label that Jake admired from afar. A hush fell over the coffee shop. Jake's heart raced. Here was the man whose vision had inspired a generation, whose name adorned the clothes that filled aspiring designers' dreams. This was the very reason Jake pursued fashion with boundless passion. He whispered to Lily, disbelief painting his voice. "Yeah, can you believe it?" she encouraged with a grin. "Me, talk to him." Jake's stomach twisted with anxiety. His heart thumped against his chest, thoughts spiraling. In his mind, he imagined all the reasons he wasn't worthy of even speaking to the man, but as Lily watched, an idea sparked a possibility. Perhaps now was the moment to rise above the self-doubt that had shadowed him for too long. Maybe this was the opportunity he needed. All right. Maybe, he said, trying to muster some courage. With every step toward Marcus, Jake could feel the weight of his jacket transform from embarrassment to empowerment. He opened his mouth, prepared to speak, when Marcus suddenly turned. In that split second, Jake felt the world shift. He swallowed hard, the crowd blending into a blur. "Excuse me, Mr. Jake," called out, his voice trembling but filled with a strange current of determination. "Yeah," Marcus replied, genuinely curious. Jake's mind raced. He took a deep breath and stepped closer, the warmth of the crowd pushing him forward. "I just wanted to say your work has influenced me more than I can express." Marcus nodded, a flicker of interest lighting in his eyes. "Appreciate that." Jake felt the enthusiasm bubble inside him. "I wear this jacket because it tells a story. It reminds me of my journey. Fashion is more than just clothes. It's a form of self-expression, a canvas for stories, and this jacket." Marcus leaned in slightly, intrigued by Jake's passion. "I love that. Fashion should always tell a story." Jake's words flowed freely now, as if the moments of self-doubt were drowned out by the fire inside him. He spoke about his childhood, his dreams, how he discovered his love for design, and the significance that jacket had woven into his life. The weight of vulnerability faded, replaced by the thrill of authenticity. Lily observed, her smile radiant, reflecting the energy that filled the air. With every sentence, Jake felt as though he was not only sharing a story, but also establishing a bond. For a moment, the rest of the cafe faded away, leaving just the passion that sparked between two creators. Suddenly, a group of onlookers gathered, drawn by the conversation. Jake could feel their gaze, their curiosity. Nerved but excited, he saw that Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, he welcomed the attention, genuinely absorbing Jake's enthusiasm. "I have to say, Jake," Marcus said, "the way you describe your vision is refreshing." Jake's heart soared. "Thank you." Just as the atmosphere reached a crescendo, Marcus glanced at his watch, a realization flickering across his face. "I've got to wrap this up, but let's keep in touch." Stunned, Jake blinked rapidly as he processed the giant leap he had just taken. "Really?" "Absolutely." With a nod, Marcus turned and began to walk away. The air buzzed with excitement, though it faded quietly as he left the coffee shop. Jake stood there awestruck. Had that truly just happened? A moment ago, he had felt the sting of teasing, and now he was exchanging ideas with a legend. Lily exclaimed, her eyes alive with pride. "I can't believe it," he breathed, his heart still racing. "You should celebrate. You showed such courage." "And to think it all started with a little teasing about your jacket," she grinned, nudging him playfully. Jake couldn't help but laugh. He suddenly felt the embarrassment evaporate, leaving behind a sense of wondrous potential. Who knew that a simple interaction built on playful banter and a shared passion would lead to such an extraordinary moment? As they left the coffee shop, the world felt different, a little brighter, a little more limitless. Jake's mind was a whirlwind of possibilities. Inspiration surged within him, urging him to keep creating, to keep exploring the path ahead. With newfound ambition, Jake dove back into his sketches and ideas. He transformed the messages from that day's encounter into something tangible. Each line drawn was infused with fresh energy. Each color chosen was vibrant with the stories he wanted to tell. Days turned into weeks, and the excitement grew as he honed his craft. He reached out to Marcus's assistant, sharing the ideas behind his designs, how they represented his journey through vulnerability, strength, and creativity. Each email echoed the essence of self-expression found on that day in the coffee shop. Finally, he received an email that made his heart surge, an interview invitation at Marcus's fashion house. Overwhelmed with excitement, Jake could hardly contain it. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. The day arrived, and Jake was a bundle of nerves and adrenaline. He put on the jacket, feeling it wrap around him like a shield, a weight of memories and experiences blending into one. He stood before the sleek glass doors of the fashion house. This was the heartbeat of the industry he was so eager to join. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with creativity. He took a deep breath, allowing the energy to fuel his determination. As he walked into the interview room, surrounded by a panel of experienced industry professionals, every moment felt like a defining chapter in his journey. With every question they posed, Jake revealed the essence of his vision, weaving in the stories that meant the most to him. His eyes sparkled with enthusiasm as he shared how fashion could connect people and inspire them to embrace their stories. One panelist asked. Jake smiled, passionate flames igniting in his eyes. "Fashion is a language. It tells our stories when words can't. It's a way to express our identities and struggles. Like my jacket, it embodies resilience. When I wear it, I carry my journey with me." After what felt like hours, the interview wrapped up and Jake walked out feeling victorious. He had shared his vision, stripped away the layers of self-doubt, and laid bare his heart. He waited eagerly for the email that could change everything. Days passed. Each moment felt tense with anticipation, but the wait felt different this time. No matter the outcome, Jake felt pride in having shared his journey and having stood tall in his truth. And then one day, an email popped up. Opening it, Jake's heart raced. "We are thrilled to offer you an internship with our team." Jake blinked, rereading the words to confirm it wasn't a dream. Tears of joy welled in his eyes. All that doubt that had clouded him was swept away in that moment. He felt the triumph rise within him. He screamed, grabbing his phone. "I knew you would," she cheered on the other end of the line, her excitement palpable. Wearing that jacket, Jake understood fully what it represented. It was a reminder of every challenge, every struggle, and every moment of vulnerability that etched his identity. It had started with a playful tease, but had woven into a tapestry of triumph, shaping the very course of his life. As he embarked on this new chapter, he knew he was no longer defined by others' perceptions or their teasing remarks. He carried the weight of his stories with pride. He was ready to dive into the world of fashion, armed with the belief that every tale, the good, the bad, and the ordinary, held the potential to inspire. In that journey, there would be struggles and victories worth sharing, and Jake was ready to face them all. The future was bright, and he was finally free to embrace it. "Nice, Jack." The words cut through the noise like a sharp knife, and Jake felt their sting shoot right to his core. He was sitting alone in a crowded coffee shop, a warm cup of coffee cradled in his hands, trying to lose himself in the hum of conversation and the aroma of freshly ground beans. Instead, he found himself frozen, caught in her bright gaze. He glanced down at his vintage leather jacket, the piece he had lovingly worn for years, the one that had seen him through breakups and triumphs alike. Suddenly, it didn't feel like armor, it felt like a target. The laughter from her friends amplified his discomfort, and Jake's cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. Just then, she sauntered closer, her confidence almost tangible. She said, her smile brightening the room, "I actually think it's super cool." Jake couldn't decide whether to laugh it off or defend his beloved jacket. He said, unsure of the right response, his voice a little shaky. But something about her playful energy sparked a flicker of curiosity. "I'm Lily," she introduced herself, hanging onto his eyes like they were the only two in the room. "Jake," he replied, feeling a bit warmer as he met her gaze. Lily tilted her head slightly. "So what's the story behind that jacket?" His throat constricted a little and memories flooded back. "Yeah, it kinda does. I got it when I was in high school," Jake began, momentarily caught in nostalgia. "I saved up for months to buy it. It has all these little scuff marks and scratches." As he spoke, Jake felt himself unwinding. With each word, he reminded himself why he loved that jacket. It was more than just clothing, it was part of his journey. Lily replied, her enthusiasm infectious. Just as their conversation gained momentum, the door swung open, and in walked a man who could silence a whole room with his presence. Jake's heart skipped. The tall figure with a perfectly tailored suit and striking features was Marcus Delaney, the founder of a wildly successful fashion brand that had captivated millions. Jake felt the rush of excitement mingling with pure anxiety. This was the man who had inspired his dreams, whose work had pushed him to pursue a career in fashion. His heart raced and doubt crept in. What were the odds he would even have a shot at speaking to him? "Is that?" Jake whispered to Lily, his voice almost trembling. "Yep," Lily grinned, a spark igniting in her eyes. The thought sent Jake spiraling back into doubt, and he talked to him. Every insecurity clawed at him, but Lily didn't let up. "Jake, look at you. You're wearing a jacket that tells a story. You can do this. Just be yourself." That nudge made something shift inside him. Jake knew he had to take that step or risk losing something he might never get again. So he took a deep breath, pushing down the wave of fear that threatened to engulf him. With a newfound resolve, he stood. As he walked toward Marcus, each step felt like an epic journey pushing through a fog of doubt. The noise of the coffee shop faded into the background. He felt the warmth of his jacket around him, reminding him of its history and significance. "Excuse me, Mr. Jake," stammered out, his heart racing like it was in a marathon. Marcus turned, a hint of curiosity flickering in his eyes. Jake was almost breathless. "I just wanted to say that your work has inspired me so much." A smile crept onto Marcus's face. "That's great to hear." Jake gathered his courage and said, "Well, I'm still figuring things out, but I love storytelling through clothing." Marcus raised his eyebrows, interest peaked. A jacket with a story. Jake felt a wave of energy surge through him, a connection forming in that small moment. "I believe fashion should reflect who we are, our experiences, and how we navigate life." Marcus leaned in slightly, a genuine interest drawing him closer. "That's what it's all about, authenticity and storytelling." And just like that, the words poured from Jake, spilling out raw and unfiltered. He shared his dreams, his sketches, the designs he envisioned that blended stories with style. It felt like he was unveiling a part of himself. Through it all, Jake could sense Lily's encouraging presence in the background, her eyes sparkling with admiration. He felt a current of confidence flowing through him. Just as the conversation reached a peak, Jake felt a collective gasp. A group of fans had gathered, intrigued by the exchange. Their eyes were wide, captivated by the burgeoning moment. For Jake, the excitement intensified. He felt alive in ways he had yet to experience. "I appreciate your passion, Jake," Marcus said, his voice warm and engaging. "Real stories are what make fashion thrive." With those words, Jake's heart swelled. He looked at Lily, who beamed with pride. "Thank you." A flicker of consideration danced in Marcus's gaze. "If you're serious, reach out to my assistant." Was this a dream? Jake could hardly comprehend the words. Really? he managed to say, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. As the crowded shop buzzed around them, Marcus turned to the waiting crowd, gradually pulling away. I've got to run, but remember, stay true to your voice, he said, leaving a palpable spark in the air. Jake stood there, enchanted, disbelief washing over him like a wave. Had that really just happened? He asked Lily, who was practically jumping up and down. Yes. You spoke to Marcus Delaney, she shouted, her excitement electrifying the moment. Jake let out a laugh, the tension melting away. I can't believe it. Of course he did. It's because you were so genuine and authentic. It all started with your jacket, right? She cheered. From that day, everything changed. It was as if a door had opened, revealing a world that had previously felt shut tight. Rushing home, Jake couldn't stop replaying the moment. The energy of that conversation lingered, fueling his creativity. He dove headfirst back into his sketches, eyes glimmering with ambition. Each line drawn echoed that first encounter, intertwining his truth with the designs he envisioned. The passion flowed, and just like that, Jake felt liberated. Weeks turned into a whirlwind of activity. With every new email and message sent to Marcus's assistant, he felt like he was inching closer to his dream. Days blurred together as he poured himself into creating pieces that told stories worth sharing, each one a small reflection of himself. Then came the email that changed everything, an interview invitation at Marcus's fashion house. The words leaped off the screen and Jake's heart raced. This was it. This was what he had worked for. On the day of the interview, he slipped on his vintage jacket, feeling the familiar weight wrap around him like a warm embrace. It was more than clothing, it felt like part of his identity. He stood before the imposing glass doors of the fashion house, his heart pounding and nerves swirling like a storm. As he entered, the air was electric with creativity. A blend of ambition, artistry, and dreams thickened the atmosphere. He stepped into the interview room, his pulse quickening. The panel watching him was a mix of industry veterans, their expressions keen and curious. As the questions began, Jake found his footing. No longer weighed down by anxiety, he leaned into his passion for storytelling. One interviewer asked, their eyes locked onto him, anticipating his response. Jake inhaled deeply, feeling the rush of purpose surge within him. Fashion is more than just clothing. It's an expression, a narrative. It showcases who we are, our struggles, our wins, everything. Like my jacket, he spoke earnestly, pouring his heart into each answer. The words flowed from him as if every twist and turn in his journey had led him here, prepared him for this moment. As the interview concluded, Jake stepped out into the street, awash in exhilaration. For the first time, doubt didn't cloud his mind. He had shared his vision, his story. He had faced self-doubt and transformed it into something powerful. Days turned into a blur of hope and anticipation, filled with late-night brainstorming and coffee-fueled creativity. Then came the email, the one he had dreamed of. As he opened it, his breath caught in his throat. We are thrilled to offer you an internship at our fashion house. I got it, Jake screamed, the waves of joy crashing over him as he called Lily. Yes, I knew you would, she responded, her excitement breaking through with every word. That jacket, the one that had seemed to weigh him down, had become a symbol of strength, resilience, and his journey. He remembered the teasing comment that had set everything in motion and realized that moment had fueled a fire inside him. As he moved forward into his new role, Jake felt a wave of gratitude. He wore that jacket with renewed pride, using it as a reminder that every story mattered. Through laughter and vulnerability, he had found his voice. With each passing day, he knew he wasn't just entering the world of fashion, he was stepping into the arena of storytelling, armed with the knowledge that his journey was uniquely his, filled with stories worth telling. He looked to the future, ready to embrace every challenge, ready to wear his jacket like the badge it had become. Jake had finally found his place, where fashion met life, and where every piece held the potential to inspire. Nice jacket. Jake's stomach dropped as the laughter from the small group nearby reverberated around the coffee shop. He froze mid-sip, the warm cup hovering between his hands. Her voice, laced with mischief, cut through the cozy ambience of the cafe like an ice pick. His cheeks flushed crimson, and he looked down at his vintage leather jacket, the very first piece of clothing he'd ever bought with his own money. It had scuffed corners and small marks that told stories of late-night adventures and life's struggles. An instant, the armor he had always felt wrapped around him became a target. Instead of pride, he felt embarrassment seep into his bones. She added quickly, taking a step closer, her bright smile lighting up her face. I actually think it's kind of cool. A flicker of relief washed over him, but he wasn't sure how to respond. Thanks, he mumbled, trying to regain his composure. He couldn't decide whether to laugh along or defend his jacket. Seriously, though, she said, her tone softening. Jake hesitated, surprised by her earnest curiosity. I got it back in high school, he said, feeling the confidence slowly seep back in. I saved for months to buy it, it feels, she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with intrigue. You should wear it like armor. Just then, the door swung open, and in walked a figure that immediately commanded the room's attention. Tall, with a sleek suit and an air of confidence that made heads turn, Jake's heart raced with recognition. It was Marcus Delaney, the founder of one of the biggest fashion brands in the world. Jake felt a strange mix of awe and panic, his pulse quickening. This was the man whose name had become a beacon for aspiring designers everywhere, the man who had turned dreams into reality. Would he ever have the courage to talk to him? He whispered to Lily, who was still standing beside him, a gleam of excitement in her eyes. "Yep," she exclaimed, practically bouncing on her heels. "Me, talk to him." Jake's voice trailed off, doubt creeping back in like an unwelcome friend. But Lily, with her contagious enthusiasm, wouldn't let him off the hook. "Why not? You already have an amazing story to tell with that jacket." Jake took a deep breath, battling the nerves that twisted his stomach. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance. The moment felt charged with possibility, so with renewed determination he squared his shoulders and stood up. With every step toward Marcus, he felt the heaviness of self-doubt lift slightly. The warm embrace of his jacket no longer felt like a burden, it felt like a shield, a reminder of the journeys he had traveled. As he approached Marcus, the world faded into a blur of anticipation and anxiety. "Excuse me, mister," he called out, his voice tremulous but resolute. Marcus turned, eyebrows raised in curiosity. Jake's heart raced, and for a moment he stood there unsure of how to continue. Then it all poured out like a dam bursting. "I just wanted to say you've inspired me to follow my dreams in fashion." Marcus listened, the corner of his lips twitching into a smile. "I'm glad to hear that." Jake felt a surge of adrenaline. "I'm still figuring things out, but I want to tell stories through fashion. This jacket," he said, gesturing to it, "is a part of that." A flicker of intrigue crossed Marcus's face, and for that brief moment their connection deepened. Sounds like a story worth telling. Jake's passion ignited, and words flowed freely. Spoke about how he wanted clothing to resonate with people, to not only be a form of expression but also a narrative of life's ups and downs. Across the cafe, Jake could see Lily watching, her face beaming with encouragement. The warm presence of the room enveloped them, and he found himself lost in the moment. "Your enthusiasm is refreshing," Marcus said, leaning in slightly, genuinely engaged. "I appreciate someone who has a clear vision. Reach out to my assistant." Jake's heart soared, really. Just then, a group of admirers approached, drawn to Marcus, and suddenly the magic of their conversation began to dissipate. As that energy shifted, Marcus gave Jake a reassuring nod. And just like that, the moment passed. Jake stood there in a daze, disbelief washing over him. Had it really just happened? Lily rushed over, her excitement palpable. "You actually talked to him," she gushed, her eyes wide. "I can't believe it," Jake said, still trying to absorb the whirlwind of emotions. "Of course he did. You had something real to say. It all started with your jacket, you know." She cheered. Jake laughed, a feeling of warmth spreading through him. The teasing remark that had initially embarrassed him now felt like a turning point. It pushed him to embrace his individuality instead of hiding behind it. They continued to chat animatedly, the cafe buzzing with energy. Each word exchanged felt like another step away from self-doubt and closer to the dream he had nurtured for so long. In the days that followed, Jake poured everything into his sketches, fueled by the encounter. He began to carve his vision into something tangible, channeling that thrilling energy into designs that told stories of resilience, hope, and courage, just like his jacket. He reached out to Marcus's assistant, crafting carefully penned emails that reflected the passion ignited by their conversation. Each correspondence was infused with intention, a bridge leading to the future he dreamed of. Weeks went by, and Jake found himself on a roller coaster of anticipation. Each morning he would check his inbox, the thrill of dreaming mingled with the terror of uncertainty. Then one day the email arrived that would shatter the confines of his anxiety. His heart raced, euphoria flooding through him. He shouted, practically vaulting out of his chair, "Jake." Lily, too, lit up with excitement, clapping her hands. The day of the interview arrived, and as Jake dressed, he slipped on the vintage jacket once more. It felt like a security blanket and a badge of honor all at once. Standing in front of the imposing building, he took a deep breath and stepped inside. The atmosphere cracked with energy, filled with creativity and ambition. He moved forward, feeling lighter, almost as if he were floating. As he entered the interview room, he was met by a panel of industry professionals whose eyes were fixed on him, expectant and eager. Yet instead of feeling intimidated, Jake found strength in sharing his story. Jake felt a spark ignite within him, and he answered without hesitation. "Fashion is not just clothing, it's a language that speaks to who we are. It conveys our struggles, our dreams, like my jacket. When I wear it, I carry my journey with me." The energy shifted in the room, nods of encouragement flickering among the interviewers. Jake leaned into the authenticity of his passion, understanding that this was his time to shine. When the interview wrapped up, Jake stepped outside, exhilaration coursing through him. No matter the outcome, he felt victorious. He had spoken from the heart and faced his fears head-on. The days that followed were filled with endless waiting, and with each moment, anticipation twisted inside him. He kept holding on to hope, focused on sewing his dreams together. Then one afternoon, an email appeared in his inbox, and he could hardly breathe as he opened it. "We are excited to offer you an internship at our fashion house." Jake's heart raced as tears of joy filled his eyes. He had done it, all the struggles, the moments of doubt, they had led him here. It was a victory that felt sweeter than he had ever imagined. He screamed into the phone, unable to contain his excitement. "I got it." "I knew you would," she cheered, her voice filled with pride. He slipped on his jacket again, basking in the warmth of pride and accomplishment. It had transformed from a mere piece of clothing to a symbol of resilience, of embracing who he was. As he stepped into this new chapter, Jake felt grateful for every teasing word, every moment of vulnerability. They had shaped him, had pushed him to rise above his doubts. With each passing day, he carried the jacket with pride, ready to dive into the world of fashion, a space where he could not only create but inspire. Jake understood that every story mattered, every expression held power, and he was finally prepared to share his with the world. From that moment on, he embraced every challenge ahead, armed with his dreams and the conviction that no matter where life led him, he would always have his journey and that jacket by his side. Nice jacket, the laughter rippled through the coffee shop like a tide, washing over Jake as he sat clutching his warm mug. His heart sank, the vibrant chatter and clinking cups around him faded into a hushed anticipation. He looked up to see a girl with piercing green eyes standing there, a playful smile lighting her face. The comment caught him off guard like a sudden jolt. He had worn that jacket countless times, each scuff and scratch a badge of honor for moments in his life, but in that instant it felt like a target laid bare for inspection. She added quickly, stepping closer, the teasing sparkle in her eyes softening her words, "I actually think it's really cool." Jake felt a flicker of relief wash over him, but his initial embarrassment lingered. "Thanks," he replied, attempting to regain his composure. "Vintage, huh, that's awesome." She leaned in, genuinely curious, her smile infectious. Well," Jake stammered, his posture straightening a little. "I got it when I was in high school. I saved for months to buy it." She nodded, intrigued. "It sounds like it has a lot of meaning for you." He felt the warmth of her gaze, and the walls he had built around himself began to crumble. "Definitely. It's been with me through a lot, breakups, victories, you name it," he said, his words flowing a bit more easily now. But just as the conversation began to blossom, an electric hush fell over the cafe. The door swung open, and in stepped a tall figure clad in a sharp suit. Jake's breath hitched in his throat. It was Marcus Delaney, the founder of one of the most famed fashion brands in the country. Just seeing him made Jake's heart race, a whirlwind of awe and trepidation igniting inside him. As if sensing their reaction, Marcus paused at the entrance, taking in the atmosphere with an air of relaxed confidence. Conversations fell silent and eyes turned toward him. Jake whispered, barely able to contain his shock. Lily's eyes sparkled brighter than ever. "Yes," panic flooded Jake's veins. "Me, talk to him? I don't think so." The doubt crept back in like an unwelcome shadow. "Just be yourself, you have a story to tell, especially with that jacket." Her words held a blend of encouragement and urgency, sparking something deep within him. He hesitated, heart pounding, but with a flicker of bravery ignited by Lily's belief, he decided to take a chance. "Okay." With every step toward Marcus, the familiar weight of his jacket felt like a comforting embrace, transforming from a source of embarrassment into a reminder of his journey. Noise of the cafe faded, and the warmth of possibility surrounded him as he approached the figure who had inspired so many. "Excuse me, Mr. Jake," said, his voice wavering slightly but filled with determination. Marcus turned his attention to him, interest sparking in his eyes. "Hi, I'm Jake," he said, adrenaline coursing through him. "I just wanted to say that your work has inspired me deeply. I've been following your brand for years." Marcus nodded, a genuine smile breaking out on his face. "Thank you, Jake, that means a lot." Jake paused, gathering his thoughts. The moment felt monumental. This wasn't just small talk. "I want to tell stories through my designs. My jacket here, it has been through so much with me." "Interesting," Marcus replied, leaning slightly closer. "Tell me more." A surge of confidence rushed through Jake as he found his voice. "Fashion can reflect our experiences, our dreams, our struggles. This jacket, it's lived through my upheavals, and every scratch is a reminder of my journey." As Jake spoke, he could feel the connection forming between them. The surrounding chatter faded into a soft hum, and it was as if he was sharing sacred knowledge. Here he was, in the presence of a man whose vision had shaped the industry, and he was being heard. "I believe fashion should seek authenticity," Marcus said, nodding thoughtfully. "If you're passionate about storytelling, you should showcase that." Jake's heart soared, a rush of hope accompanying the question. He blurted out, feeling the thrill of vulnerability. "Reach out to my assistant and let's see what you can bring to the table," Marcus replied before he glanced at the gathering crowd, the murmur returning. With that, he turned and gently navigated through the throng of admirers, leaving Jake standing in a daze. Could it be? Had he really shared his story with Marcus Delaney? Lily rushed to his side, practically vibrating with excitement. "Did that just happen? I can't believe it," Jake replied, still processing the whirlwind of emotions. "Of course he did, you were amazing, and look, it all started with that teasing remark about your jacket." Her voice rang with enthusiasm. Jake couldn't help but laugh, feeling a heavy weight lift from his shoulders. The jacket had made him vulnerable, but also empowered him. It had led to a moment he would cherish for a lifetime. Following days, Jake poured his heart into his sketches. Inspired by the encounter, he infused art into his passion for storytelling. Each design echoed the emotions he had felt in the cafe, raw, authentic, and alive. With each email he sent to Marcus's assistant, he could feel the potential blooming. He worked tirelessly, sketching and perfecting his vision, understanding that this was more than just a career. It was the very essence of who he wanted to be. Weeks passed, and the anxiety of waiting took a toll. Each morning he would check his inbox, anticipation solidifying his resolve. Then came a message with his name in the subject line, an invitation for an interview at Marcus's fashion house. Jake could hardly breathe as he clicked on the email. The words leaped off the screen, igniting a wildfire of excitement in his chest. He shouted, a rush of joy flooding through him. Lily squealed, clapping her hands together. I knew you. As the day of the interview approached, Jake found himself caught in a whirlwind of preparation. He practiced his pitch, polished his designs, but deep down, under the excitement, nerves began to creep in. The pressure fueled by anticipation tickled at the edges of his thoughts. On the morning of the interview, he carefully slipped into his trusty jacket, feeling its familiar weight settle around him. It was more than just an article of clothing. It was a testament to his journey, a reminder of every tear shed and every dream chased. Standing outside the sleek glass building of the fashion house, he took a moment to breathe. As he entered, the air buzzed with energy, creativity alive in every corner. A vision of what he had dreamed opened up before him entirely. As he walked into the interview room, a panel of sharp-eyed professionals awaited him. Jake felt his heart race, a mix of intimidation and exhilaration coursing through him. This was it, this was where he belonged. Jake, tell us about your vision for fashion, one of the panelists asked, and in that moment he found his footing amidst the nerves. Fashion is a language, he replied, feeling the confidence surge back. It speaks of our experiences and our stories. Like my jacket, it carries with it a narrative, a journey that shaped who I am. The panel nodded, their expressions reflecting encouragement. Jake felt the momentum building, almost like a wave rising behind him, urging him forward. The questions flowed, and with each one he spoke earnestly about his designs, each sketch intertwined with the emotions of his life, the experiences that had molded him into who he was. But just as he was immersed in the passion of his pitch, accompanied by wider smiles and nods of appreciation, the atmosphere suddenly shifted like a dam about to burst. He noticed a disturbance at the back of the room. A man entered, and the energy in the room shifted instantaneously. It was Marcus Delaney. Jake's heart skipped a beat. Had he not only been chosen to interview, but also summoned before the very founder he admired? The atmosphere thickened with anticipation as Marcus took a seat at the panel. Apologies for my late arrival, Marcus said, his voice calm and commanding. Jake felt the floor beneath him pulse with energy. This was a moment beyond his wildest dreams. This was the culmination of every hope he had harbored for years. For an instant, Jake's heart surged and he felt invincible. Yet standing before them with his dreams laid bare, sudden doubt began to creep into his mind. What if he faltered? What if Marcus didn't see the spark? Continue, please, Marcus encouraged, gesturing for Jake to carry on. With a deep breath, Jake leaned into the moment, channeling every ounce of passion he had. He spoke passionately, each word infused with meaning, but before he could finish his thought, Marcus raised a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. Wait, he said, his eyes narrowing. Can I ask you something important? The question hung in the air like a drum roll in the midst of a crowd. Jake's heart raced, the weight of Marcus's gaze pressing down upon him. The question was more than he could have imagined. In that moment, doubt surged again, a shadow creeping in. What if he didn't have the answer? What if it wasn't enough? But as he looked down at his jacket, the memories flooded back. Every time he had worn it, every moment it had sheltered him. It was more than just clothing. It embodied his story, his passion. With his heart pounding, he met Marcus's gaze. What motivates me is the power of storytelling through fashion. My experiences, the laughter and the tears, they're all woven into the fabric of my journey. I want to show the world that clothing can be a mirror. It reflects who we are and where we've been. The room held its breath, a palpable tension hanging in the air. In a world driven by trends and fleeting fads, Jake spoke of something timeless. He could see the sparkle of intrigue in Marcus's eyes, but just as things seemed to shift back in his favor, a tremor of fear pulsed through him. What if it wasn't enough? Just as he opened his mouth to present his final piece, the design he had worked tirelessly on, his heart, his soul, poured into it. One of the panelists unexpectedly interrupted, smiling but with an edge that sent a chill down Jake's spine. Jake, we appreciate your passion, but can you handle the pressure? The words hit him like a cold wave, and Jake felt his resolve crack beneath the surface. Suddenly, everything he had built, the experiences, the captivating moments, seemed overshadowed by self-doubt. He paused, battling the emotional tide of insecurity flooding over him as Marcus's attention remained fixed on him. Would this be the moment that defined him? Would he falter? Jake straightened his back, the weight of his story pressing him forward. But just as he was about to reply, every part of him holding back the tidal wave of emotion, ready to pour out hope, a loud crash echoed from beyond the interview room. Everyone turned their heads in surprise, and for a split second, Jake's heart raced with confusion. He felt the tremor of uncertainty, like a storm brewing just beneath the surface. With all eyes on the door, Jake knew one thing for certain: something monumental was about to unfold. But what would it mean for him? Would this be the moment that changed everything, or the moment everything slipped away? Before he could process what was happening, the door swung open and a commotion rippled through the panel. Jake stood at the precipice of his dreams, caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty. The cliff he stood upon felt sharper, the stakes higher, and in that defining moment he realized he was not just fighting for a chance, he was fighting for his identity. Would he seize the moment, or would it slip through his fingers just as quickly as it arrived?